Hi, all, and welcome to English for You. Before going into our topic, I would suggest all of you to please subscribe and share this channel if you like our contents, and do stay tuned for more. Today, we are going to discuss the history plays written by William Shakespeare. Shakespeare, being the literary genius he is, has also contributed to the shaping of the genre of history plays in English literature. He has written 10 plays based on the historical background of England. This includes a minor tetralogy, a major tetralogy, both consisting of 4 histories each, the history of King John and Henry VIII. Next, we are going to talk about the general features of these history plays. These history plays could be neither classified as a tragedy nor a comedy. It is actually a combination of both. Shakespeare has written these plays through the different spans of his career, which shows us the rapid maturation and more developed characters in these plays. The plays were based on Edward Hall's Chronicles of the Wars of the Roses and Establishment of the Tudor Dynasty and Raphael Holinshed's Chronicles of England, Scotland, and Ireland. What makes Shakespeare's plays stand apart from the former history plays is the historiography he used. He did not insist on unadorned historical facts but also gave importance to the historiography, which makes it superior from the former lifeless plays. Some of the general themes in these history plays were empire, statehood, nationality, competition to the crown, etc. It also dealt with the clash of ethical and political concern and discussed about the role of women in politics. Against the medieval notion of the divine right theory of kings, it professed about a monarch's duty to the people, where neither the monarch nor the parliament were considered an independent authority. Next, we are going to have a further look at the minor tetralogy of Shakespeare. The minor tetralogy consists of 4 books, of which 3 deals with Henry VI and the 4th one about Richard III, which were written in 1590 to 1591. The minor tetralogy deals with English defeat by France in the last years of the Hundred Years' War, which is enacted in Henry VI, Volume 1, followed by the disputes and battles of the English civil conflict, the Wars of the Roses. The tetralogy begins with the death of King Henry V in 1422 and ends with the foundation of the Tudor dynasty in 1485. Now, we are going to have an in-depth analysis of the historical play Henry VI. The main characters of Henry VI Volume 1 are Duke of Exeter, Richard Plantagenet, who is the Duke of York, Duke of Bedford, Humphrey of Lancaster, Duke of Gloucester, Henry VI of England, Earl of Warwick, the legendary Joan of Arc, to name a few. The play opens in the aftermath of the death of King Henry V. News reaches England of the military setbacks in France, and the scene shifts to Orleans, where La Pucelle or Joan of Arc is encouraging the Dauphin to resist. She defeats an English army led by Talbot. In England, Richard, the Duke of York, quarrels with John Beaufort, 1st Duke of Somerset, about his claim on the throne. The Lords selects red or white roses depending on whether they favor the House of Lancaster or the House of York. Edmund Mortimer, a leading claimant to the throne, is a prisoner in the Tower of London and declares Richard as his heir. The young Henry VI honors both Richard and Talbot. But Talbot dies bravely in his next battle against the French. In the meantime, King Henry is married off to a young, fresh princess, Margaret of Anjou. The Earl of Suffolk intends to control the king through Margaret, which further ignites an ill feeling between him and the Duke of Gloucester. The play ends without a resolution, and the story is continued in Henry VI, Part 2. Henry VI, Volume 2, begins with the marriage of King Henry VI to the young Margaret of Anjou. William de la Pole, Earl of Suffolk, aims to influence the king through her. The major obstacle to this plan is the regent of the crown, Humphrey, Duke of Gloucester, who is very popular with the people. Queen Margaret vies with his wife Eleanor for precedence at court. Eleanor is lured by an agent of Suffolk into dabbling in necromancy and then arrested to the embarrassment of her husband Gloucester. Nevertheless, the demon she has summoned delivers some accurate prophecies concerning the fates of several characters in the play. Gloucester is then accused of treason and is imprisoned, and afterward assassinated by agents of Suffolk and the Queen. Meanwhile, Richard, Duke of York, who has a tenuous claim to the throne, schemes to make himself the king. The Earl of Suffolk is banished for his role in Gloucester's death and is killed by Walter the Pirate, leaving Margaret without her mentor. Meanwhile, Richard of York has managed to become commander of an army to suppress a revolt in Ireland. York enlists a former officer, Jack Cade, to lead a rebellion that threatens the whole kingdom so that he can bring his army from Ireland to England and seize the throne. As Cade's rebels are routed, York, who has brought his army over on the pretext of protecting the king from Somerset, declares open war on the king, supported by his sons Edward, who will become the future king Edward IV, and Richard, who is the future king Richard III. The English nobility now takes side and the Battle of St. Albans ensues. The Duke of Somerset is killed by the future Richard III, young Lord Clifford, whose father had been killed by the Duke of York, vows revenge on the Yorkists and allies himself with the King Henry's other supporters. In the final part, the Earl of Warwick is presiding over a dispute between Richard, Duke of York, and resigning King Henry, in course of which Henry agrees to make York his heir. The Queen Margaret makes it clear that she will not agree to this and declares war on the Yorkists with the assistance of the young Lord Clifford and other supporters, including her son Edward, the Prince of Wales. The Yorkists are defeated at the Battle of Wakefield. Clifford murders York's young son, the Earl of Rutland. Margaret and Clifford taunt the Duke of York before killing him. The Earl of Warwick now takes York's eldest son, Edward, under his wing. At the Battle of Taunton, they take revenge on Margaret's army and Clifford is killed. Following this battle, Edward is proclaimed king and his two brothers, George and Richard, are created Duke of Clarence and Gloucester, respectively. Warwick turns against Edward when he marries Lady Grey and he changes sides, joining Queen Margaret and allowing his daughter to marry her son, the Prince of Wales. The Duke of Clarence goes over to Warwick, marrying his other daughters, and Edward IV is taken prisoner. He is rescued by his brother Richard and the faithful Lord Hastings. King Henry VI has been restored to the throne, and the young Earl of Richmond, who becomes the future King Henry VII, goes into exile in France to escape the Yorkists. Edward defeats and kills Warwick at the Battle of Barnet. In a subsequent battle, he kings the Prince of Wales and captures Queen Margaret. Richard of Gloucester begins his campaign to remove all obstacles in his path to the throne by murdering King Henry VI, who is a captive in the Tower of London. Henry prophesies Richard's career of villainy and his future notoriety. However, King Edward's wife had just given birth to a son, the future King Edward V of England, which marks the end to the play Henry VI. The final play of the minor tetralogy, Richard III, is a play about evil, violence, and murder. It charts the rise of Richard, Duke of Gloucester, a deformed, cold-blooded, and dastardly villain who slaughters his family and even marries his victim's widow to become king. Richard, determined to gain the crown of England from his brother, the Yorkist King Edward IV, woos the widow Lady Anne at the funeral of her father-in-law, King Henry VI. She yields to his advances and marries him. In the meantime, Richard organizes the murder of his brother George, Duke of Clarence, whom he has had imprisoned in the Tower of London. The King Edward IV is ill and Richard is assisted by Lord Hastings, is appointed as regent. He places the young sons of Edward in the Tower and consolidates his power with the help of Buckingham, who gains the support of Lord Mayor of London and his followers on Richard's behalf. The king dies and Richard is proclaimed king. He has Hastings executed for attempting to frustrate his plans. The young princes are murdered in the Tower. Edward's widow Elizabeth flees with the sons of his first marriage, fearing for their lives. Buckingham, who is suspicious about Richard's role in the murder of the princess, tries to blackmail him, demanding an earldom. He is then captured and executed. Richard plans to marry Edward IV's daughter, Elizabeth. Henry Tudor, Earl of Richmond, the heir to the Lancastrian claim to the throne, makes war on Richard. They meet at Bosworth. On the eve of the battle, Richard is haunted by the ghosts of his victims. He is killed in the battle and Henry Tudor succeeds him, becoming Henry VII of England. The play ends with him planning to marry Elizabeth of York and ends the Wars of the Roses. And that's all about the minor tetralogy of Shakespeare, and we will discuss the major tetralogy in the next video. Until then, stay tuned and take care.